Zoo elephants, Billy and Tina, have been relocated to the Tulsa Zoo despite massive controversy, massive upset by people who said, don't move them. And the city did not listen. The mayor did not listen. These animals have been there for decades and they have suffered. You see the rocking motion, that stereotypic rocking. The Los Angeles Zoo was begged to move these two aging, beloved elephants to a sanctuary. There were sanctuaries that were reportedly willing to take them, but they said no. And they moved them to another zoo, sparking outcry. Celebrities like Cher and Lily Tomlin, and a list of dozens and dozens of people who are leaders in Los Angeles, including myself, wrote a letter to Mayor Karen Bass saying, please do not send these animals to a zoo, but they did it anyway. So how on earth are we going to keep this story alive? How are we going to prevent Billy and Elephant's plight from being forgotten? Well, there is a new movie being made about elephants, and the people making it have a track record of keeping these kinds of horrors alive because they are the makers of the film Harambe, about a gorilla who was shot at a zoo. And because of their documentary, Harambe, his plight has not been forgotten.
Cincinnati 911.
Hi, my son's out in the zoo. There's a male gorilla standing over him. I need someone to contact the zoo, please.
A zoo under fire for shooting and killing an endangered gorilla instead of tranquilizing him.
This whole tragedy was a misunderstanding.
And then it blew up into a meme, and it's unforgettable.
The story remains still as important today as it was in 2016.
The killing of Harambe put his name in the news. It's iconic. The main message of how do we help these gorillas in the wild, that still should be the main focus of the name Harambe.
Gorillas are keystone species in their habitat. That if you remove that one species, the ecosystem would completely collapse.
600 million zoo visits a year. We are fundamentally miseducating people.
And we put these beautiful creatures who we say we want to look after and save in prison.
So I am so honored to be able to say that there is a team that is going to do for Billy and Tina what was done for Harambe. And without further ado, I would like to introduce that team, the incredible filmmaker, Erik Crown and his partner. Let's go out to Erik first of all. Erik, tell us, you have a gift for filmmaking. How are you going to save elephants, and why should people donate to your new film?
Jane, thank you so much for having us on to talk about this topic. It is incredibly important. We are losing keystone species at such a fast rate. And right now, elephant populations are depleting, and those are the wild. And the rest of them that we have in captivity are never going to be in the wild. And Billy and Tina are a very sad example of this traditional role for captive elephants, where they are bred just to sell tickets. And they will live their lives making money for their owners until they can eventually be moved to a sanctuary, which for some reason the LA Zoo has repeatedly tried to push this deal with Tulsa. And we were able to get to work with a lot of elephants all around the world, and we see this problem in every single country. So it is really important, what our goal is to make a movie that can educate people. We're taking our cameras first hand. We're going to take you to illegal logging sites. We're going to take you to how a sanctuary should work. We're going to take you to the cruelty of captivity. And we're going to show you firsthand so you can make up your own mind about these elephants. And right now there is a big push to remove all elephants from all captivity purposes. And they've already moved and shut down a few zoo exhibits. So we think there's a great hope that we can make a change. The only thing missing is a little bit more education. And we hope that this movie can really fill that patch and bring people emotionally in to the story and really learn about what's happened with elephants over the last 50 years, which, you know, we're big conservationists, we're vegans, and we had no idea that this issue was happening. So it's happening right under all of our noses.
Well, I am putting the link to your Indiegogo campaign. You can copy it. You can take a photograph of it. Please go there for $10. You can be involved, and you can also be an executive producer for a $10,000. It's really up to you. But together we can, you know, build a movement, because the plight of Billy and Tina should never be forgotten. Just like the plight of Harambe the gorilla has not been forgotten, specifically because of your film, because news reports come and go, but documentaries stay. And that's why this documentary is so important. So let's take a look at your film. You have sort of an outtakes or a sizzle reel giving us a sense of what you're going to be doing.
In Thailand roams one of the most important keystone species in the world, the elephant. A keystone species is essential to the biodiversity in the area in which it lives, and elephants are essential for forest regeneration. They are also listed as endangered and on the road to extinction. And Asian elephants have passed the sentience test, meaning they're self-aware and fully have an understanding that they're not free. And with the Asian elephant population down around 70%, the newest form of captivity for profit will keep them from bouncing back.
Well, because we have so many elephants suffer in a different industry. The industry of logging ivory, this is also threatening their life, make them go extinction.
Other issues include traditions, such as these traditional Buddhist carvings in ivory.
For the elephant, performing and painting elephant, you know, this is the torture. They have no idea about what is behind the scene.
It's absolutely extraordinary. And I just hope that everybody pitches in so that you can get the funds you need to finish your movie. Tell us how Harambe, because you made Harambe, and that really did keep the issue of Harambe alive, because these news reports, even if they're national news reports, they come and go. But because of your documentary, Harambe became sort of a catchphrase for no primates in captivity. Is your new film that you're kickstarting to raise to finish going to basically become a catchphrase for no elephants in captivity ever?
We definitely hope so. We definitely hope so. You know, we take the perspective of animal rights as opposed to, say, animal welfare. And what we want is to see these animals properly where they're supposed to be. And we really hope, you know, when we were working on Harambe, we noticed there were elephants in the zoo and they were just moving back and forth like this. And then we eventually learned, you know, in the video we saw with Billy and Tina as well, that is what they tend to call zoochosis, which is the stress of this movement. And it's something, zoochosis is something we wanted to bring out in Harambe, and it's something we want to bring out in the elephant movie as well, in Keystone, because they are keystone species. You know, if we lose the elephants, we'll lose our biodiversity and we'll lose our planet, and we'll lose everything that we have as well. So our survival is wrapped up in their survival. And our goal is definitely to add something into the conversation that is a permanent piece. And our big goal is to get as many amazing expert voices as we can to come in on this, because when we make movies, we tend to bring in the experts from different varieties of areas to talk about the problems that these animals are facing. So, you know, it's not so much about us per se in the movies, but we want to, for example, with Keystone, we have a whistleblower that's willing to give us some undercover video of the cruelty that goes on in circuses and other places with elephants. We have Non-Human Rights Project. We have Lek Chalert, who is one of the top elephant sanctuary people over in Thailand. And, you know, we definitely believe that a feature film can jump over the wall of journalism or over the wall of silence that a lot of times these topics face, because they will be contrary to making money for these companies. And a lot of zoos, as I'm sure everybody knows, are tied in with a lot of these cities, and states. So when you're talking to the zoo, it's not a single entity, it's kind of the county as well. So we really, really want to do this, and we need it more than ever right now, because like I said, we're losing elephants at a terrible rate, and the cruelty we've seen in captivity must end. And we want all captivity to end, but we definitely want to see at least sentient keystone beings such as Harambe and such as every elephant that exists, because they're all sentient and they're all keystone, out of this captivity into sanctuaries where they can live their lives out in a more natural fashion in the way that they were meant to.
So you're looking at the Indiegogo link. You could take a photograph of it, put it in. It's also, if you're watching on Facebook or X or LinkedIn or YouTube, it's going to be in the comment and is in the comment section. And what's really cool about this is, you ever want to be a co-producer of a movie? Well, you got a chance. $5,000, you become a co-producer. $10,000, you can be an executive producer. But you don't have to give that much money. $10, just $10, and you can be a supporter. And tell us, for that $10, what do we get?
Great. Well, and that's exactly the thing. We wanted to make an easy buy-in at $10 all the way up to $5,000 or $10,000. And when you come in at $10,000, you're joining our community. You're joining our movement. You're joining our voice. We need to all come together as one and become a community focused on pushing forward. And I totally agree, Karen. People need to know more. And there's more mystery surrounding elephants. We were shocked how many people we talked to still want to go ride elephants in Thailand. So we need a lot of education. So for $10, you can come in, you can join our project. You'll get a digitally signed poster, which definitely will be a one of a kind. And your name will also be added to the website as an early supporter. So you can show everybody that you care about elephants and that you are part of the solution.
I want to talk to you about why this is important, because some people say, okay, a documentary is nice, but it's more important to protest. And my point about Harambe and what you did with Harambe is that there were a lot of stories about this horrific killing of this gorilla at the Cincinnati Zoo, that it turns out the gorilla was just trying to protect the little boy. And it's not his fault, the gorilla's fault, that the boy fell into the enclosure, and yet they killed the gorilla as opposed to using a dart gun. But that would have come and go with the news cycle. And I was in the news for many years. And that's a one-day story, unfortunately. But because you did a documentary about it, how did that keep the story alive? And how did it have repercussions for other gorillas and other zoos? What kind of message did it send?
We were really happy with how Harambe was received. We started to get support from all over the country, well, all over the world, really. And what we really wanted to focus on was being able to tell the story. First of all, as you were saying, the news cycle, it comes and goes, but it also got everything wrong. The mother was blamed for Harambe, and we found out it was actually the zoo's legal fault. And so, you have a nice chance to go in and correct the story and make sure that the permanent story that's being told is being told by the right people and the right voices that will best carry it in the interest of all the victims involved. And in Harambe, there were two victims. There was a poor child that fell in, and there was Harambe. And we don't want to see this happen anymore. We see a lot of elephant attacks over in Thailand, for example. You'll see it all over the news all the time, and it's because they shouldn't be next to people. That it's just that simple. And what Harambe was able to do was able to help push a lot of anti-zoo groups and to push a lot of people trying to protest and say, get these gorillas out of our zoo now. And as I said, we're seeing elephants already being moved out of zoos, whether it's Ireland, now LA, even though unfortunately they're going to Tulsa. But we are seeing a movement where everybody says, we want to see a change, and we can no longer do this. We're thinking as if it's 1890, and we have these sentient beings that are so important to our biodiversity being held in a concrete cell for no reason, and they're being bred to sell tickets. And Billy and Tina have been through this. Every elephant in the zoo, for the most part, has been through this, unless they've been illegally imported in. So we feel that, making documentaries, they are important because you're able to bring in a lot of voices in a unified message to really talk about the topic and cover all the topics and go in and investigate these foundational arguments that we always hear. When you talk about the zoo, people say, oh, they're doing conservation. Okay, well, how are they doing conservation? And when you drill down, they're not. And it's just that simple. They're not.
Well, to the point of Billy and Tina, this was a debate that was happening, literally headlines, global headlines. And, what's really sad is it didn't really matter what anybody said. It didn't matter what Cher said. It didn't matter what Lily Tomlin said. It didn't matter when community leaders like former Councilman Paul Koretz spoke up and said, the place for these animals is a sanctuary. Listen.
I believe a well-run sanctuary with proper veterinary support is a much better environment for an elephant. It allows an elephant to really be an elephant. No matter how well-run a zoo might be, it's inevitably not as natural or healthy an environment for these animals. And that is why I've been working to free Billy for more than a decade.
And we just got Tiffany Brunelli says, great project, donating now. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you,
we
Tiffany.
We want to keep these donations coming in. Super important. They cannot do it alone. Here you have with Billy and Tina, council members. There was even a battle inside the city council chambers where a current council member was literally kind of begging and pleading for the Los Angeles Zoo to send Billy and Tina to a sanctuary, and it would cost the city taxpayers less. And despite all that, they sent these two animals to another zoo after decades of them suffering.
It's your desire to send them to the Tulsa Zoo instead of the AZA accredited sanctuaries. It would seem that sending an elephant to a sanctuary where you have 3,000 acres to roam would be better than a zoo where you have 20 acres or less, from the benefit of that elephant. Could you explain why that's not the case?
While space might be one consideration of a factor that can contribute to an animal's well-being, it's not the only thing. It's the opportunity to be in a social environment, in a herd environment. It's the quality of the care and the individual needs of the animal. And all of that in combination, we feel they can achieve at the Tulsa Zoo.
And you think that what they get at the Tulsa Zoo is substantially better than what they would get at the AZA accredited sanctuary?
I think what they can get at the Tulsa Zoo is the ability to be in an environment where they can thrive.
Right, but is it better than the other environment?
It's not a matter is one better than the other. You could say a sanctuary can provide a great environment for a particular animal based on its needs the same way that a zoo can.
Again, despite these heated arguments within the city council, where that city councilman, Bob Blumenfield, is basically begging the head of the LA Zoo to do the right thing. And you saw the gobbledygook that was spewed out. She also happens to be the head of the entire zoo association. So, zoos want to stay alive. That's the point. So what was your reaction to that interaction?
I couldn't believe what I was seeing there. Everything she said was absolute misinformation and the opposite of the truth. They need, for example, a social structure. They also need to be able to walk multiple kilometers a day. There are so many needs that are not met by elephants in zoos, and every elephant in the zoo shakes back and forth, and you can see that zoochosis. You can see the stress on them, and it's amazing to watch her do this, because it's a great example of how the problem is bigger than this elephant, this zoo, this law. The problem is bigger. The problem is our minds. You talk about somebody like Peter Singer, you talk about speciesism. These elephants are sentient beings. They that should be the end of the argument right there. Then we should be able to keep sentient beings in captivity. That is an outdated modality of thinking. And the zoos find these animals as property. They define them as property. A lot of zoos will claim that they cost $1. The entire collection of animals, they'll put in their insurance as $1. This was reported by the New York Times, $1 to keep their insurance low. So they have no value for these animals. There's zero value and appreciation for their lives, their complex emotional lives, their social structures, their needs in any way, shape, or form. And I would love the opportunity to be able to talk to her because, it's impossible. I mean, Sierra and I have seen elephants in nature and doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're completely different. And again, the problem is that we think of them as property, and we need to change the mindset. And that's something else we want to do with the movie is give enough information that the empathy that's naturally in everybody that connects us to elephants, as magical, crazy, mystical looking beings. That is what we really want to promote, and to think of them as not just this elephant or this animal, but as another being. Like we said in Harambe, or Ian says in Harambe, we're human beings, they're gorilla beings. Well, this is the same thing. We have to understand that they're beings and they deserve a place on our earth, and they deserve as much respect as we do. So to hear that coming out of the Los Angeles Zoo director was really infuriating.
It is, and everybody's furious. And I do believe there will be political consequences. We're going to play another clip from your sort of sizzle reel about why you need the funding to complete this movement. And then we're going to talk to Sierra Williams, your co-producer, on the other side.
We've been traveling all over Thailand helping rescue elephants. We've also worked in Colombia, Mexico, Africa, and several other continents working on animal rights issues and captivity issues. While working on our documentary Harambe, we became aware of the elephant captivity issue. And although our principal photography in Thailand is complete, we do need your help. We need to be able to get over to England and do our interview with Ian Redmond, the elephant expert, to expand the base of knowledge, talk about Keystone species, and have an elephant expert to talk about the plight of all elephants worldwide. And we're also very excited to work with our good friend Peter Egan, who produced and narrated Harambe and is coming back to narrate this documentary with us.
So the actor Peter Egan is going to be involved in this film. That's so exciting. Sierra, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us why people should be involved in this film. Why is this going to save the lives of elephants?
Well, first of all, thank you, Jane, for having us on today. And, this movie is so important because it gives people an opportunity to learn more about elephants and their true nature and, how we need to treat them differently. And I really do believe that it comes down to education. It comes down to just changing the way we think about how we treat animals, and especially elephants. They really deserve the freedom, the autonomy to do what they want to do and just be themselves. And they have a role in our environment that is so important, that is often misunderstood or not even understood at all. So it's really important that we get this information out there to everyone.
Yeah. And, it's a perfect time for you to be doing this documentary because this is one of the biggest scandals in the animal rights world that I can remember, certainly this year, when you have people like Cher and Lily Tomlin and a whole bunch of other celebrities pleading with the mayor of Los Angeles. And the New York Times did an article, and it's all over the news. There were news stories last night. There are news stories today. People are outraged. They are outraged because, as somebody said in one of the comments here, LA is supposed to be the most progressive city. And how is this happening in Los Angeles? Right here. How is Los Angeles keeping an elephant in a zoo? It's the most progressive city on the planet. They're moving them from this zoo to another zoo when there were sanctuaries available, and they're having to spend approximately $45,000 where going to the sanctuary would have been free. And it's just, we're lagging. Los Angeles is behind the curve on this. There are so many other cities in California that have closed their elephant exhibits and sent their elephants not to another zoo, but to sanctuary. So it's extremely frustrating. I want to get back to what happens to these elephants in zoos, as well as when they're captured for being elephant rides, which I urge everybody never take an elephant ride. Let's listen to what Cher said in a film by Voice for Animals about that.
And when Billy was just a calf, to prepare him for a lifetime in captivity, he was forced to endure a brutal training regime, which still affects his mental well-being. Billy came to the LA Zoo in 1989. He was only about 4 years old. This is a training video made at the zoo with Billy as an example of how to train an elephant. Billy's tusks have been cut, his front legs chained, and the bull hook held by the trainer. Here the trainer pulls Billy down by block and tackle using front and rear leg chains.
It's disgusting to watch. It's so revolting, but people don't believe it. Like, even when they see the video, they go, well, that can't be happening today. That can't be happening at zoo. In my opinion, zoos are animal prisons, and the animals are serving time having committed no crime. And zoos are a 19th century concept that need to go bye-bye. And we need to either transfer all of these zoos, transition them into sanctuaries, or they need to be shut down. That's my personal opinion. If I run into somebody where is the zoo? I don't care whether it's in New York looking for the Central Park Zoo or out here looking for the LA Zoo. I say, I'm not going to tell you, because I don't want to encourage you to go to a prison for animals. And as somebody said in your film Harambe, it sends the worst message to kids, that other beings are there to be put on display for us and are not entitled to their own existences. It's oppression. And I was told a long time ago, the difference between a zoo and a sanctuary is zoos are designed for people. So they have to keep them in a limited space. Otherwise, somebody would buy a ticket and they'd go to see the animal, and the animal would be off doing whatever he or she wants to do. Sanctuaries are designed with the animals in mind. So if you go to a sanctuary and the elephant is either not visible or somewhere else, then that's okay, because the sanctuary is designed for the elephant in mind. Additionally, sanctuaries don't breed animals, and zoos are breeding animals. And there is a theory that one of the reasons why they wanted Billy to go to the LA Zoo, to go from the LA Zoo to the Tulsa Zoo, is to breed him more, which to me is rape. They're not making love in these zoos, okay? It is rape. What is your thought on all of that?
Absolutely. I mean, every animal should be able to choose who they mate with, and I think it's a cruel thing to do. And it's, going back to the training, it's something that people don't see. We see our baby animals at the zoo, and it entices people to go buy more tickets, and they think that that's supporting a good thing, but actually it's just us marketing to, it's just the zoo's marketing to families to make more money. So all around, the zoo is not a happy place or a good place for these animals. They need to get out, and they need to be in a place that's their natural habitat. They need to be in a sanctuary, a protected space, a protected wild space that they can, and if they need care, they can get it. It's so important, going to these sanctuaries in Thailand. It was amazing to see massive amounts of people coming together for these elephants and doing everything they can to help them and give them what they need. And it was just so wonderful. I'd never seen anything like that before, versus when I was a little girl going to the zoo, all I knew was this shape of an animal that was standing still and rocking or swaying, and that's all I knew. So, it's such a different, I wouldn't even call it an education at the zoo. I would say brainwashing.
Yes, and this is some of the film that you have, and you talk about the fact that elephants experience self-recognition. Tell us about that.
Yes, they can recognize themselves in the mirrors. There have been studies, it's called the mirror test, where they mark a little put a little mark on the side of their heads and put them in front of a mirror to see if they can recognize that it's actually them in the mirror. And it's so amazing to see that, and also to see their other social structures in play, to see the moms and the nannies taking care of the babies, and just making sure that the whole herd is well taken care of. Elephants are so amazing. They're social. They don't forget. They mourn their dead, and they protect their herd. And they're actually absolutely incredible creatures.
Well, you are listening to the filmmakers behind Harambe, and this is some of the footage of their new film. Their previous film about a gorilla who was shot at a zoo because a child had the misfortune of falling into the enclosure has kept that story alive since, I believe, 2016. And so if you donate to this film, we will keep the story of Billy the elephant, the horrors that Billy the elephant has experienced. We will keep the horrors of what happened to Tina, these two elephants being moved from the LA Zoo to the Tulsa Zoo against the objection of so many people, and protests year after year after year after year. There were protests every weekend at the zoo begging for the release of these animals. And after all of that, they decided, and this is pretty much breaking news, I mean, it was just confirmed last night, that they moved them in the dead of night to another zoo. A zoo that, according to the In Defense of Animals, has problems. So I want to get back to Erik. Erik, tell us why you think this elephant movie that you're making right now, that you're raising money for, will be a game changer for elephants.
Great. Well, I think this will be the first time we've been able to, really bring the community together. We talk about the protests, and those are really important. It's important that people become educated travelers. If you're going to go to Asia, don't go ride the elephants, don't touch them, don't bathe them. There's a lot of rules that people should know, and we need people to become more educated. It's our turn to learn about the world and its inhabitants, instead of just trying to mold them into our particular version of what we think a society should be. So as you can see those elephants there, some of them have stepped on landmines, and they're deformed, and their legs are messed up forever. And this is a major issue, because a lot of these elephants, every elephant that you see in captivity has gone through that horrible process that was in the video Cher was showing. And every single one of them, it's designed to break their spirits, because we have seen wild elephants, and they are dangerous. Elephants don't want to know us. Here's some footage of the illegal logging that we went up and got in Thailand as well. So,
what's this? What's this?
So this is a show, and you can see the elephants here are all performing. They're flying their trunks around. They play soccer, and they even go to as far as painting. There's an elephant named Lucy in the Edmonton Zoo, and they do paintings of her. They stick their trunks in paint, in toxic paint. They say it's non-toxic, but we've talked to different experts, and it's not good for them. They put it in, and then they make them do these paintings, and then they sell it. So, the reason that we have elephants in zoos is it eventually became a law. The Endangered Species Act, as we learned in Harambe, was signed. And once that was signed, they could no longer import elephants in. So they created a species survival plan. And this is where zoos trick people. It's called a species survival plan, but none of these animals will ever go to the wild. Now, we've seen how they're trained. They would never make it in the wild. Their spirits are totally destroyed. They're beaten every day. They're stabbed. They have spears. It is a really torturous process. And again, every single elephant that we see has gone through this. So, the SSP, the species survival plan, is a zoo plan where every zoo will breed a couple different endangered elephants. So, like, for example, are endangered animals. Like the Tulsa Zoo is potentially going to breed the elephants, and not every zoo is going to breed elephants. So they'll breed elephants, and say the Cincinnati Zoo
or the zoo in Brownsville will breed gorillas.
And you know what I say? It's not breeding, it's rape.
Absolutely.
They're not making love. They're not choosing their mates. It's a horrific process. And when I was told about it, it's honestly too disgusting to repeat.
Yes.
But basically, they get the sperm. Do the math. It's disgusting. And this is why many people feel this is why they wanted Billy.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. And that is a terrible reason, because, again, these zoos are just protecting their profits. If they were doing what was right for the animals, there would be no debate. They would have gone to the sanctuary. So the zoo told everybody that maybe didn't know before, yeah, we don't really care what happens to these animals. We're here to take our money we're getting from Tulsa. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did that. We had heard that, they even took Harambe's sperm after he was killed to keep his line going. And, and the other thing that we learned in Harambe that I thought was crazy is they keep all of these animals in the zoos on birth control, so they can control the cycles of when they need the babies to be born, because there is a baby, what's called a zoo baby phenomenon. And the zoo babies are really important. So when you have a smaller animal, it's a baby, it's really cute. Sierra and I were lucky enough to go rescue a 7-year-old elephant in Thailand with the group over there called Unchained Elephants. And it was amazing. This poor thing was tied up and freaked out, and his eyes were going everywhere. And the next morning, he was released into this huge, beautiful sanctuary area, and his entire demeanor changed, and he started to become himself. And I think Sierra was talking about, they have a family structure that's so important. They have a mom, but within the herd, they also have a nanny that will help take care of them. So there's so much to learn about these elephants, and to learn how similar we are to them, and how we all understand and need to coexist in the world. But we do owe them a lot more for all these years that we've done wrong by them.
And if you're just joining us, we have some very sad breaking news. Despite protests, repeated protests, pleas from city council members and all sorts of entreaties to the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, the Los Angeles Zoo has moved the elephants, Billy and Tina, to the Tulsa Zoo, even though there were accredited sanctuaries willing to take them. And this has sparked an uproar. As I've mentioned, the likes of Cher, Lily Tomlin, and numerous other celebrities, something like 80 leaders in this city and people of note. And I did include myself in that letter that was sent, but also just citizens everywhere, just outraged. And so we're so happy to have a solutionary approach, that we're not just going to scream and yell about this loss, but we have an opportunity to fund a documentary about elephants, and Billy and Tina are going to be in the mix there, so that we keep their story alive, because that's exactly what happened with Harambe. Harambe was a gorilla that was killed, I should say, and it would have been a one-day story. But because these same filmmakers did a film about Harambe, it has remained in the public consciousness and continued to be considered an outrage, continued to make change. So in a way, Harambe the gorilla is a martyr.
Cincinnati 911.
Hi, my son fell in the zoo. There's a male gorilla standing over him. I need someone to contact him, please.
A zoo under fire for shooting and killing an endangered gorilla instead of tranquilizing him.
This whole tragedy was a misunderstanding.
And then it blew up into a meme, and it's unforgettable.
The story remains still as important today as it was in 2016.
The killing of Harambe put his name in the news. It's iconic. The main message of how do we help these gorillas in the wild, that still should be the main focus of the name Harambe.
Gorillas are keystone species in their habitat, that if you remove that one species, the ecosystem would completely collapse.
600 million zoo visits a year. We are fundamentally miseducating people.
And we put these beautiful creatures, who we say we want to look after and save, in prison.
It's so awful. And we have some good news, though. Karen LaCava said, I've donated and will donate again. Everybody donate. Let's educate. And Sierra, your producing partner, has sent a link. We have a couple of links here. Here's what Sierra says. You can go to this. You can just take a photo of that, and then you can just type it out and make a donation later, or do it right now. I mean, there's no time like the present. And once again, you can become anything from a just a person who gives $10, which is wonderful, up to co-producer $5,000. And if you want to be an executive producer, who wouldn't? That's a nice thing, right? $10,000, you become an executive producer of this incredible movie. So, okay. Well, let me just say this. What is going to happen when this movie is done? Who is going to see it? Like, what is your plan to make it a change maker?
Great. Well, that's really an important aspect. And that's one of the reasons that we want to make sure we get these documentaries done, because we have ways now to get them out to market where they couldn't be before. And one of the most important ways is to make sure that it's available free of charge. So our goal, just like Harambe, is to have it on Tubi, to have it on a couple other free platforms, Unchained TV as well, because we want the right audience. We want the people that really, are tuned into us, and they're the ones that are going to get turned on and start telling the small facts about if you just tell one parent about zoochosis, it's going to challenge them to are they going to take their kids? And if they do, and they notice zoochosis, will they go again? So everybody's support is so important to us right now. We've got about 80% of the movie completed, all the overseas stuff, Africa, Thailand. And now what we need to do is finish our work here in the States, and we need to be talking about Billy and Tina. We're doing some work regarding circuses. We can't talk too much about it right now, but it'll be in the movie. And the most important thing, again, is to provide educational information that can open the doors of empathy, understanding, and change. And we can do that together, but we need to be a community. We need everybody together. Everybody that comes in on our projects becomes like a family to us, because we're all fighting for one thing, and that is for a better future for all inhabitants of this earth. So everybody that can join us would be an incredible experience. And again, we don't really, it's not about money. We need the funding because we want to provide it for free afterwards. And now we don't have to also make any changes. We don't have to change what we're saying, and we don't have to play the game in distribution anymore. We've had a lot of stories stopped over the years due to distribution games. Now we're in a digital age where we can, like I said, get it on Tubi, get it on, Apple TV. It'll be everywhere and available for free, so everybody can share it, watch it, show it, and educate. And we can really, I think, move the needle on this, because it's just outrageous what happened with Billy and Tina. And there's such a passionate collective in Los Angeles that's fighting. There's passionate collectives.
Let me say this. You are my hero, because you are going through a very serious health crisis right now. And most people would just be saying, I'm taking care of me. But can you tell us about what's happening with you, and why you have the courage and the resilience and the relentlessness to continue on this, even though, for most people, they'd say, well, this is as important as my health. I'm just going to relax and take care of myself.
Thanks, Jane. It means a lot to hear that. It is a hard road for Sierra and I. I've been battling cancer since 2005. I was diagnosed with an environmental sort of hybrid cancer. I've been through 13 surgeries. I've had experimental drugs. I've kind of done everything. I just did immunotherapy and it failed. So we're about to start chemo rounds coming up in June and July, August, and then we'll take it from there. So far, nothing has worked. So we'll do 4 chemo rounds, and we'll do another test and see if it works or not. It's a very uncertain thing. We always say, when you're diagnosed with cancer, you're given a death sentence or a life sentence. I was lucky enough to get a life sentence. So I have the ability to go out there and tell these stories. And with my time, that's what I want to do, is try to improve everything around, because the world is so incredible and it's so amazing. And, Sierra and I want to share that with everybody. But it is a challenging backdrop to be battling cancer full-time during this process.
And people are sending their best wishes to you. To me, that is so inspiring. I mean, think about it, people. This gentleman, Erik Crown, is suffering from cancer. He's been fighting it for years. And instead of just saying, well, I'm throwing my projects out the window, he and his partner, Sierra, are doubling down, traveling the world to get this film done. So the least we can do is donate to the Kickstarter. And I urge you again, I'm going to be donating the second I hit the stop button. I'm going to be jumping in. I don't know. I was looking, I was like, this looks fun. I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to definitely do something. And it's going to be more than an early supporter. Everybody is saying, wishing you a full recovery.
Thank you, Tom.
And they want you to be on our team. Well, we are on the same team. You heard that he said that this film is going to be on Unchained TV, which I'm thrilled to hear, because we are really motivated by the same thing, to stop the suffering of animals. That's why I do what I'm do. And I can't go out and just have fun or relax or travel or do whatever when I know that these animals are suffering and they can't speak for themselves. So, yes, when you give to the animals, Unchained got Erik's back.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
We do have your back. And people are saying, sorry to hear that, praying that your efforts and your rehabilitation, your medical treatments work. So I just want to say, wow, you are an inspiration to me. Along with Sierra, I know how hard you work. Now, let me just say one other thing, people. It's how you cut it. The way Harambe was edited was brilliant because it got regular people in the tent, and it was done like a true crime story. And full reveal, Erik and I both worked for the same basic overall guy who was one of the most famous reporters and producers in tabloid television. And we learned how to make things right. So the great thing about donating to this film, it's not going to be another one of those sad films like doo doo doo. You know that it's going to come out of the box like boom. It could be on Dateline. It could be on 60 Minutes. It could be, that's what I think your genius is to make it like the opening of Harambe is so damn good. I'm just going to play it one more time to show you how, not the whole thing, but just the open, to give you a sense of how you get people in the tent. Okay. If you just start with sad music and saying, this is terrible, people are just going to turn away. They want solutions. First of all, they want hope. They want to know that there's something they can do to stop whatever's happening. And it has to be captivating, and it has to get them in the tent the first time around. So here we go. Just the first 20 seconds, and you're going to see what I mean.
Cincinnati 911.
Hi, my son's out in the zoo. There's a male gorilla standing over him. I need someone to contact the zoo, please.
A zoo under fire for shooting and killing an endangered gorilla instead of tranquilizing him.
This whole tragedy was a...
See what I mean? Do you see what I mean? How that is a hook. Are you going to have a similar hook with your elephant movie?
Yes, definitely. Because, I think that one of the keys is an emotional connection to the story. And even though we weren't there, we really need to build one of those. And that gets everybody in, because then they're willing to take the ride with us. And, I loved what you said about solution, because we're very solution-based filmmakers. We know there's a problem. We're not there to necessarily just talk about the problem, but we want to talk about the solutions. And if you have a problem, it's almost like if you have it, you can put it into a suitcase. And what we want to do is give you the handle to put on that suitcase, to pick that problem up, own it, control it, and you can make the difference. And that's the thing, is one person can make a difference. And we've seen it all around the world. And that's what we think this project has, that ability for everybody to lock in, make a difference, and push forward for a better future. So we're really excited at the prospects for the movie, and especially even to get to meet more and more animal rights people, and even more of our vegan crowd, as well. We're a fully vegan production company, so going vegan is an important way to also help animals both in captivity and in the wild, all around. So there are so many solution-based things we can do as an educated consumer that can change the world.
Thank you so much, and Sierra, so much for joining our broadcast. Again, please donate. And while you're at it, please download Unchained TV. You can see us right there. There we are, and here. We're the world's only vegan animal rights streaming television network. We are a multi-platform network with more than 24 platforms and adding new platforms very, very rapidly. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So, just support us by downloading. You can download it on your phone. Just put in Unchained TV in your app store. Absolutely 100% free. You can also watch us on TV with an Amazon Fire Stick, a Roku device, or an Apple TV device. And you can also watch us online at unchainedtv.com.
So it's a vegan Netflix. Okay, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I love Unchained TV.
Unchained TV. Your life will change. It's just that easy.
Unchained TV has all sorts of content for everybody. Unchained TV changed my life. Unchained TV is crushing it. I love Unchained TV. Unchained TV is my go-to. Unchained TV. Who knew?
Unchained, baby. Yay!